Hello, friends. I'm DJ Lance Rock, and I have to say, Rock and Roll Grad School is awesome!
This is Rock and Roll Grad School with your hosts Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling. First-time callers, long-time listeners.
Hello, kiddies. We are going to have a real good time together. We're talking with Sonny Gullage, who you best know, Kevin Gullage, as a contestant on American Idol. So he is, I believe, one of the first people we've spoken to who has met Lionel Richie.
Yes.
And
Wait,
he has.
you think? Well, we haven't asked a lot of people if they've met Lionel.
True. Very, very true.
But he's the first person to tell us Lionel stories.
This is true. So Sonny, Kevin met Lionel. He has a blues record coming out on Blind Pig Records, the famous blues label. They're rebooting it, and he's one of the initial artists. It's a really good record if you like blues records. And it's a lovely conversation because there's a connection to Leadbelly that is mind-boggling, and we get into that in the interview. So this is our first time back together post my tour, by which I mean following the Elder on tour and riding in a bus. It was lovely. There only had to be one band meeting.
Wow.
Yeah. They were not supporting the other artists, and they had to say, hey, guys, knock it off.
Yeah.
It then turned into sort of an airing of grievances. And I was like, can I film this? And they're like, do not film this.
Oh, come on.
So I'm sitting in the back of the room, like, you can attend. And one of the kids actually goes, it's just like, I'm getting tired of hearing the same songs every night. I'm starting to not like System of a Down. To which the only time in this entire hour plus meeting I wanted to chime in was to just go, oh, you're tired of hearing the same songs every night. Walk a mile in my shoes. So we got the full experience, the riding on the bus for 4, 5, 6 hours a day into the night, staying at motels all over this great country. We drove past Bluefield, West Virginia, home of Bob Dylan's former steel guitar player, who he always introduced as the former mayor of Bluefield, West Virginia, Huggy Baxter. Mm-hmm. And then we also in Richmond. So I found out during the tour, we were discussing Guar Bar.
Yes.
The bar dedicated to Guar. And I went there for a drink and an appetizer. A lot more decoration with umbilical cords.
Yes,
you
said so.
Lovely place. A lot of people playing chess. Very interesting.
Making out, you said?
There was a few folks making out, yes. But I also found out about a pizza place. Did I tell you this?
You did.
So, the Van Halen themed pizza place.
Amazing.
I mentioned this, and the owner of the school who was riding with us says, wait, what is that? And I said, I guess it's a pizza place dedicated to Van Halen. One of their sandwiches is called the guitar solo from Beat It.
I mean, as it should be.
And she said, well, why don't we go there for lunch?
Yes.
So they call ahead to let them know there will be 40 to 50 people descending upon this restaurant at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Yes.
And everything's set up the night before, all cleared. We get on the bus to go to Hot for Pizza. And this has been decided, we're going to surprise everybody and go. She turns to me and says, can you make an announcement? Now, some people, this would be intimidating. either one of us is I'm sorry, you want to encourage me?
Right. Of course.
So they hand me the microphone to the bus
Yes.
and I read them this. It was great because the elder was like, you started, and everyone was like, what is this? And by the end, they thought it was really funny.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we know you're hungry. You got it bad, and everybody wants some. How will you know if it's lunch? Well, after lunch, Jamie won't be crying no more. But we need you to remain calm, and we don't need no eruption. We ain't talking about pound cake. You may have noticed we got to dive her down. We need women and children off this bus first. We will be dining al fresco at a restaurant dedicated to unlawful carnal knowledge. We'll be dining at a restaurant that ain't interested in talking about love. We are dining at a restaurant dedicated to Alex, Michael, Eddie, and Dave. Parenthetically, also Sammy.
Thank you.
Oh, you ate one too? Ladies and gentlemen, we will be dining at Hot for Pizza, a restaurant dedicated to the genius that is Van Halen. Right now.
Ooh, perfect ending.
I remember back when I was young, Daddy called me, said, come here, my son. He said, if you wanna be like me, you gotta learn to keep your mind at ease. He said, go be free.
You are likely distantly related to Leadbelly.
Yes, sir.
When did you find this out?
I want to say possibly, 2017. And it wasn't that I found it out. It was like everybody found out. No, everybody knew except me.
Oh.
one of those. Oh yeah, our last name. Yeah, it changed. It changed in the in maybe the 30s. What was it before that? Oh, Leadbetter. It was like, as in Lead. Oh no, yeah, that one, him, yeah. We've been doing music for a long time.
Yeah, it's you would have thought it could have come up before that.
You would think, and it's one of those. I like to think of it like, oh well, maybe the line of blues and gospel sort of got a little, when most of your family is full of gospel musicians, and then
Yeah.
you're a musician.
Yeah, and your dad's a musician, your mom's a singer, correct?
My dad is a professional musician. My mother's a teacher. His mother
His mother.
was a singer. Oh gosh, to this day she can sing circles around me. But she was a professional recording artist. As a matter of fact, she had a release with Sammy Burfect in 1965. 2 gospel songs called He's Almighty and I'm Toiling.
How often did she make you listen to them?
Oh no, she these recordings were lost for a long time.
Oh, okay.
We recently, it was common knowledge that she recorded, but we didn't know that it was with Sammy Burfect and the other greats. But it was very much how can I put it? When we found it, we were all just so blown away. We were like, we found them. We found the 2 recordings.
Yeah.
And someone was just selling the album on eBay. And the Sister Alberta Gullage. You're like, well, we know who that is. That's my grandmother.
That's amazing.
Those old on the old records, they had liner notes sort of on the record.
Mm-hmm.
So right under it, we see Sister Alberta Gullage, evangelist Sister Alberta Gullage, organ Sammy Burfect. We were like, wait a second. So yeah, when she found it, she was almost like, oh, don't play it, don't play it, don't play it. But it was great, and even I went through the process of refurbishing it, so to say, so that some of that static and old record noise was minimized as much as I could, and to hear her tone, she's 92 years old, I think. To hear her tone from now versus her tone in the 60s, my gosh, I was blown away by how soulful, so true, that same thing that I try to bring to the table when I sing blues, she had it just like it was nothing. So
Mhm.
it's actually pretty cool to find it and hear
But let's not sell yourself short. I mean, the record, it's all right. You do okay.
it.
Yes.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and it's on Blind Pig, which has got to be, as a musician, like a wow, this is so cool. Like of all the other artists that have been on that label throughout the years.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite blues pianists by far is, besides Otis Spann, of course, is Pine Top Perkins. And to see Pine Top Perkins with that stoic look that he had, that simple smile, on the artist page of the record label that offered me a record deal. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, Pine Top Perkins, E.C. Scott, Kenny Neal, who is around this region as well, Otis Rush. I was just sitting there like, so many of my favorite people are on the same label historically.
Yeah.
And now, and hey, we're coming back. We want you to be one of our first artists. I can't tell you how great that made me feel.
The record's a lot of fun. It covers a lot of ground. It kind of zigs and zags, and half of it feels like a party, half of it, you mentioned that soul, the last track, whose name is escaping me at the moment,
Home team.
yes, that's, I mean, the perfect closer for a record.
Thank you so much.
How long were you working on these songs? How long did it take? What was the band? Is this your normal group of players?
You might not believe me when I say this. We did this whole album in 5 days.
You're right. I don't believe you.
Just
Yeah.
That's nuts.
we wrote the album in 2 days and we recorded it in 3. And first, I want to acknowledge the writing side of it. So I'm a writer. Writing is my favorite thing to do. Writing and performing. The same way I bring energy to the stage, I try to put pen to paper that same way. So when Blind Pig called and said, "Hey, this album's going to have a lot of your originals on it, so I need you to start writing." That's all it took. He said, "There's going to be a songwriting session. Why don't you come in with some ideas?" I have nothing but those. So I start spitballing ideas to myself, and then I come in and I have these songs, and I go, "Hey, here's what I got. They're not finished, but they're something." And when you walk into a room with Tom Hambridge, who is the co-writer of this, as well as Richard Fleming, these are two people who've been writing for so long that they just know how this goes. They know how to make it real, make it work. So it was never oh, well, you're young, you don't know what you're talking about. No, it was hey, I like this. Why don't you try this out? So instantly we got to the point of, we had this instant, what's the word that they use? Cohesive. I can say cohesion. We had this instant cohesion where it was a room full of people who are great musicians as well as great writers, just going at it for a while. And so writing wise, it took 2 days, and it was just an expression of who I am, I think, which made it a lot. And then recording wise, we got in there. It wasn't my normal guys, the blues groovers, and let's all take a minute. Let's say it, blues groovers.
Yeah, no, blues groovers, definitely.
I do catch it later, I guess. But if we, but blues groovers, these fellas are the guys that I go on tour with. These guys are the fellas that are with me all the time. Actually, my father is the bass player of the blues groovers, and one of the people who've known me my whole life is the organ player. His name is Brandon Adams, and Carlton Ross on guitar. And I mean, these are the guys who helped me create the sound that even I could communicate to the other musicians who did record. So in there, we had Nashville session guys who are so amazing. I mean, they heard the sample track and then they made the track come alive. And that's a new thing for me, because I'm so used to hey, let's try this song and let's play it live. These guys were like, okay, so let's make an album. Those are two totally different things, which was a big learning experience for me. So not the normal, not the blues groovers, but great musicians all around. And even when it comes to special guests, great musicians all around.
And are you used? I know Go Be Free has got like a great horn section on it, which like that just if that doesn't like there's a vibe and a feel to that track, especially.
I think you mean things I can't control.
Okay, that is that
Things
yeah.
with the horn section, things I
Yeah.
can't.
But like it's have you worked with those folks before? Or are those also session folks
No,
who just
these are
walked
all
in and
guys, which is a new experience for me. I mean, live horns, I've composed a lot in my life, but I mean, I've worked with live horns before, but these guys, once again, session guys are cool. They make it happen. You know, I sent a simple email. I said, "Yeah, Mr. Tom with the horns, I'm looking for something almost Bobby Blue Bland, you know, almost that type of feeling, those very soulful backgrounds, and that's exactly what these guys put out."
oh, were you gonna say something? Oh no, she's sneezing. Okay.
Well, God bless you.
Yeah. And I love the way, again, the way the record is almost sequenced, where it's sort of like up number, down number's a wrong way to say it. But it's got a great flow to it. That like listening to it today, like it just kind of moves naturally and has a great vibe and feel to it and kind of counteracts the previous song. And the fact that was that something you spent a lot of time on? Was that as you're writing these, you're going, oh, this can go before here? And because obviously sequencing a record is different than set list or anything else.
Well, like you said, we wanted that natural flow to happen. Definitely, that was a big part of it. But also, it's like a life, you know. It's like a life. Every life, there's no life that's just like I was born, and then I was rich, and then I was this, and then I was, you know, it's just like everything's a win. No, you have your days where they're like, hey, this was a high energy day. Hey, this was a relaxed day. Hey, this was a month, just nonstop. This was a more mellow, chill month, and I think that's the way that this album flowed by the end of it, where we said, hey, let it flow the same way life flows, where it's you know, you have a hot house that has this, and then you have tattooed wings next to it, where it's just sort of like, hey, now let's bring it back to that sort of back end sound. So yeah, it wasn't something that we just thought like, okay, we got to do it, but it's something that happened naturally. Even in the recording process of it, it was like, hey, let's do a high energy. Okay, all right, let's bring it down a little bit. Okay, let's get back to a high energy, even higher than so yeah.
And it's also, I love, I think it's Worried About the Young is the one that it doesn't offer any answers, which I thought was like such an interesting idea of like pointing out there are problems, there are issues, and it makes you worry about future generations, but there's no like, here's what we got to do. It's not like there's no simple answers to it. It's not just we need to love each other, which would be a good start, but it's not a yeah, it's just it gives you no like I said, no easy answers.
We're in a weird time period in life, I believe. I'll say that again.
Yeah.
We're in a weird time period in life, I personally, where we're trying too hard for answers instead of trying to recognize problems. And that's where you can't answer a problem that isn't being shown as a problem. You can't answer a question that hasn't been asked. So instead of trying to say, hey, do this, hey, world, do this, you know what I'm saying? Hey, let's think on this. Let's let the question resonate for a while. And then in thinking about it so much, we might find an answer. So it gives no answer, but sometimes the answer isn't something that I can't say, here, take the answer. No, I have to say, hey, you think of an answer that you think will work. That's not part of the problem.
Is that your normal outlook on things?
Like you said, we have a standard of everyone should love everyone. Everyone let's love each other. But
Right.
That's like, hey, we can't speak from things we don't know. I mean, a big part of even where I am today, and I mean, probably the biggest, most crucial part, most critical part of what I know is, and where I am, is the fact that I don't judge it based on what I know.
Mhm.
If I walked into the room and Tom Hambridge is there, if I have all of the wealth of knowledge that Tom Hambridge has, and my father was with me, and my father's there, and I have all the wealth of knowledge my father has, and Rich is in there, and I have all the wealth of knowledge that Rich has at my disposal, it would be arrogant and foolish for me to try to answer the question without taking their knowledge into consideration. And that's how I sort of have an outlook of life, where it's like, hey, I have resources at my disposal. And I think my high school piano teacher said it best. His name is Michael Polera, and he was my piano teacher. He was John Baptiste's piano teacher. He was so many others' piano teacher. But he told me a long time ago, Kevin, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and how you play and how you perform. Yeah, you can have a wheel that's all yours and brand new, but you don't have to reinvent it, because then it's part of the problem. So I judge it based a lot more on, hey, what can we learn from the experiences that others have had before us? But that's just my personal.
Right. Speaking of experiences, you sort of gained a lot of prominence with being on American Idol.
Yes, sir.
So we have to kind of go there.
You
Do
say
you
it
look
so
at it?
negative.
Well, but I feel like sometimes people walk away and are a little jaded about the process. And what was your reaction to your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy the whole process? Was it helpful to you?
I enjoyed it based on the knowledge that I gained from it. I mean, there are levels of industry and levels of music that the average musician does not get to experience in their lifetime.
Right.
So that they don't know it exists. So I was in an experience where I got to see the other side of things. I got to understand the process of getting in front of a celebrity on the level of Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan. I got to understand the side of things. It's like, hey, we have a strict itinerary. Let's move. Let's get it done. Let's not ramble. No, we have things to get done. There are certain levels of professionalism that a lot of people, especially my age and around my age, and sometimes even they never find it in life, but that was a standard that they held. So I loved it for that knowledge, for the knowledge that there are other people around my age and or younger who are, who are just as passionate about music as I am, even to the extent of working with the American Idol band and getting to see how a band at that level functions. And getting to even talk to Lionel Richie and getting to experience Katy Perry and Luke Bryan and seeing them live without effects, without anything else, just what they can do without even thinking about it. That's an experience that that's an experience I think I am better for having.
So you've seen the top of the mountain.
No, never.
No. No, but in that you've seen how they did it, how they got to that mountain.
It's more that I've seen that there is a mountain and that there is a peak. While a lot of people get to, how like Everest has a midpoint that a lot of people visit and they never go up to the top.
Right.
I experience the midpoint, which is a better, a perfect example in my mind, because it's a lot higher than anybody would ever dare to go. But it's nowhere near the height that you can reach. And that even teaches you in the sense of humility and staying humble are very important. Because just as much as you might reach the midpoint, there is a world of people that you don't even know who are so on their way to the top, to the peak of that mountain. You don't know they're on the side of the mountain already. You just know that there's a peak, and you know that where you are, you can't tell me how many people are in between there. Mm-hmm. And even in the world of blues, I want to say 24 years old when I met a phenomenal blues musician named Kevin Burtz, who gave me such a new outlook on performing music. I didn't know who Kevin Burtz was until I was 24 years old. But he is at such a place compared to me. Mm-hmm. He's in between that peak and where I am now. And he's a good deal older, and he's still working to get to that peak. He's probably so close to the peak that he can say, okay, it's only this much further. Yeah. But that's something that a lot of people don't get. There is a world full of musicians in between where you are and the top of a mountain. And you might not know that they even exist because you're just way too far below them to even know that they're there. So
don't you feel there's different peaks too? Like everybody's peak might be different.
Definitely. Now, and that's the best way. That's a great question, because where my peak might be one thing, and it's a peak that I would love to describe anytime, but someone else's peak might be so far past that. Some people might want to say, I want people to say my name as commonly as they say Beyonce.
Right.
Now, if I get to that peak, I don't mind one bit. I don't mind.
You won't fight it, sure. Right. None of us will.
But that's not necessarily the peak that I'm aiming for.
Right.
Just aiming to go higher.
Mm-hmm.
Better way. That's a okay way to put it. I'm aiming to go higher and get better at what I do. But I'm not aiming to say, well, I reached the peak and somebody didn't. Mm-hmm. Because probably isn't the peak that they're trying to reach. And it's not to say that it's not as high as mine or as low as mine. It's just not the peak that they want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I feel.
Do you stay in touch with any of the judges?
Judges? I wish. If I could commonly, we're in season, if I'm not mistaken, this is season 23 of American Idol currently, or 22. But there are so many people in between that. I don't think a lot of people recognize how many people really do get to audition, and how many people really do get to the audition and then audition again. And I don't think how many people get excused from Hollywood Week, and how many people get sent home in so many different stages. There's 20 seasons of top 24. There's 23 seasons of top 24. So 24 times 23, and then exclude the other 75 that made it into Hollywood Week, and excuse the other 1,700 per season that didn't even get the chance to audition.
Right.
Yeah, that's way too many people for Lionel Richie to give his name.
Right.
I'm just blowing up everything. Yeah. But no, I don't keep in touch with any of the judges. I keep in touch with a lot of my friends that I met there.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across that water.
Go Be Free, the new record by Sonny Gullage, is available on August 23rd from Blind Pig Records. For more information, you can find him on Instagram, where he is at Sonny, SONNY _Gullage, GULLAGE.
Rock and Roll Grad School is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, because your impassioned review is just as honest as us standing backstage waiting to come back on for the encore. For more information, you can check out our website, rockandrollgradschool.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hagquist and myself from our world headquarters located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing executive producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Good night, drive safe, and may all your favorite bands stay together.
Why don't you come over? Come to me. Heard you went to jail, saw your house up for sale. Do you need a good lawyer? Did you catch a tan?
own EP said, "As not shown on TV," and it was the funny thing for all of us who knew how great Elliot is and was. So, and Lexi Weege and Tristan Gressett made it to top 24. But he's a young guy who's trying to do it the same way I'm a young guy who's trying to do this. So yeah, you keep more in touch with the friends you make along the way.
Your fellow travelers.
Yeah, we shared this bond of going through Idol and having to get up at 6 a.m. to be at the Orphan 7 a.m. just to go home at 12 at night, and then have to wake up for 6 a.m. or till 4 a.m. working on the duets round just to go back to the Orpheum. So yeah, these are brothers in arms and sisters in arms.
And of problems to have, to get to that point is wonderful. And it seems like, and maybe this is since coming from the outside, but like your time on the show and this record and the journey you have been on thus far, it seems like a very nice, it's supposed to fall into place. You're supposed to, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like you're in a good place, in a good part of the journey as far as that goes.
Definitely. You can't plan success, not truly. Not everybody is King Richard. You can't plan success. What you can do is plan to do your best. So before Idol, I was playing at BB King's Blues Club in New Orleans for years until the COVID shut down, where we were all in quarantine. And New Orleans never opened up after BB King's New Orleans never opened after that, because the owner, Mr. Tommy, who became a great friend of mine and my father's and the rest of the Blues Groovers, he passed away from it. And New Orleans opened, and that made I've never felt baseless in terms of having somewhere to be. I was always at BB King's New Orleans. I met BB King's drummer Tony T.C. Coleman at BB King's New Orleans, and Norman Boogie Cat Sylvester out of Portland, Oregon. It made such a big difference in even my upbringing in blues, and growing up around blues musicians like Henry Butler and Gary Brown and DeVell Crawford. You have great footing, but when you find that place that you call home base, to lose that was really weird, and to lose a friend in the process who came to my defense when I needed him and always had a great word of encouragement and advice. Of course, to lose him in the process was even more devastating. So then I ended up, my dad knocked on my door and said, "Hey, you want to audition for American Idol?" Sure. And I did that. And then after I was excused from Idol, I had a record that had just been released with Basin Street Records. And I'm in New Orleans. DeVell Crawford, Kermit Ruffins, and so many others from New Orleans had been on that label, and Lena Pree. And that led to having a record that I was going on this randomly offered tour with, where we did 15 days, got back, went to Austria twice in a row, and then got back and went to Brazil. And next thing you know, Blind Pig is calling, saying, "Hey, we want you to be one of our artists." And in between there, right after my American Idol audition aired, Hammond Organ Company called and said, "Hey, we want you to be part of our artist family." It's one of those. It's such a real life. It's not what TV tries to portray as like, "Oh, here's the star's dream. He does this. Now everything's happening." No, it was, hey, a bunch of random coincidences lined up apparently, and now here you are trying to make sense of how you got here, but still working just as hard as somebody who isn't signed, somebody who wasn't on American Idol, somebody who, that's the truth about it. You have to work just as hard, if not harder after, because to believe that you've made it somewhere it's a dangerous belief. To know how to come is a great thing, but to believe that you've made it, that's nothing that you can tell yourself. So that's, I think that's how it seems that it just all just timing wise fell together. But that hard work that I didn't let up.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful. The record's really enjoyable. And if you run into but can you refer to him as Lionel?
No, so
Well,
but funny enough, I have a Lionel Richie story
Okay.
yes.
from Idol. I was it was the duet rounds, the night of the duet rounds, and they sat me and my partner, Yoli Mayor, next to Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan. And he's doing his thing saying, yeah, you guys, you're going to stay, you're going to go, I'm sorry. He's doing it, and he's the nicest guy ever. And then I'm just staring, just looking, watching. And he turns around, whips around in this spinny chair and goes, Kevin, what's up? You see, I look at him and I go, I don't envy what you have to do. I mean, you got to tell people yes or no. You got to, and that makes a big difference. I don't envy what you have to do. And he tells me, Kevin, everybody, when you make it, and not saying that you didn't make it because you're here, you've made it, but when you make it, when you can have everything you want, he looks back down at me, he goes, call me. We're gonna finish this conversation.
That's awesome.
Well, now you gotta.
Yeah.
I was excused from that. I told him, I tweeted at Lionel Richie, can't wait to finish that conversation. Even when they excused me, I told him, I said, no tears, hugs all around, and we hugged each other, and I said, no worries, I'll see you guys out there.
Yeah. It will.
And that was a moment that was very big for me. So that'll be a point. That's a peak that I'll be very happy to reach.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we want to hear how that conversation ends when it does.
Yeah.
I promise you.
And it won't be the end of the conversation. It'll just be the end of that part of the conversation. Then it'll continue on.
Maybe I'll have 5 conversations.
Absolutely. I believe you
Here's
will.
hoping.
No, you will. You absolutely will.
Thank you so much.
For sure.
Again, Kevin, thank you. This was wonderful. The record's really enjoyable. Best of luck with it, and hope to see you and the Blues Groovers soon.
Oh, thank you. Hope to see all of you soon as well.
All right. Have a great afternoon.
All right. Have a blessing, everybody.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.